Welcome to Tales from the Tarot podcast, where you can learn about the tarot not from a book, but from people's lives. I'm your host, Tara, and I invite you to join me and my guests as we break down the human experience through story, myth, and archetypes. Travis Black is an astrologer, tarot reader, palm reader, and body worker currently living in LA. He studied with T. Susan Chang and uses the Thoth deck. He sees the tarot through the lens of astrology, and you might notice in this episode him referring to a word decan, which simply is a way to break down a zodiac sign into smaller increments so that you can match it to your birthday and match that to a specific tarot card. So there's a wonderful book you can learn more about decans called Tarot Correspondences by T. Susan Chang. I hope you enjoy this episode with Travis.
So I just want to know, what have you been up to, and because the last time I saw you, you were in Southern Indiana and we were at a tarot workshop.
Your tarot workshop.
I was I was teaching it, but when I started talking to you and realized how much knowledge you had, I was like, oh, I better do real good.
You did real good.
Oh man. But yeah, you were just really fascinating to talk to. It's like you just had knowledge on a whole other level, which was really cool. But so I want to know more about, I know that you have all these mystical gifts and I know you're expressing them in the world, but I don't quite know how. Are you doing that? Is that what you're doing now in LA, or offering astrology readings? And
Yeah, I do lots of these things. I do tarot, of course, astrology, and palm reading sometimes. I like doing that. I hate doing that on the internet. Just like I need to touch someone's hand, right? I need to really feel that. I miss doing fairs. I would like to be doing that again, just because it's fun. I really get in a great channel the more I'm talking, and the more just kind of like the better the readings get, the longer I sit and talk.
that's cool.
Um, yeah, it's funny. Uh, can't turn off a Gemini sometimes. But yeah, I do body work. I do astrology. I was teaching a lot of meditation. I'm a yoga teacher. Gosh, I've just kind of over the decades of doing this, just kind of collected lots of things because I just want to do it, and I do it.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah, mainly like astrology and a lot of body work in LA, a lot of body work, crystal healing, such, right now,
Nice.
especially.
What lineage is your favorite, or did you learn from for meditation?
Boy, that goes way back, um, like the 90s. I guess there was just kind of this, I don't know what you call it, but there's this flavor of like boomer reform Judaism, kind of Buddhism, where it was just kind of like this Springsteen denim, kind of like New York Jew Buddhism kind of vibe. So it's hard to explain. It was very much its own thing. That's kind of my introduction. I would say it's quote unquote Buddhist meditation. But then, yeah, I got involved in like transcendental meditation. I got involved in Vipassana. I like trying all kinds of meditation. I love things like chaos magic because you can kind of experiment and just magic in general. I like kind of experimenting with it, but the magical things I've interfaced with, that I vibe with the most, obviously, is astrological magic.
Okay.
But yeah,
Do you
yeah,
do, or, sorry.
please go
I'm
ahead.
so eager. I have questions, but I need to let your thought process go.
No, I'm just gonna like wander. Please keep me on track.
Do you do planetary magic?
Yes.
Oh, I love planetary magic. I'm not real expert at it. I haven't been doing it very long, but it was really fun to work with Jupiter. I did that last month. We went
You can do it
to,
every Thursday. In fact,
yeah,
anyone can.
I don't know if I told you about it, but we went to our local banks and dug dirt outside the bank and put it in a
Uh-oh.
pot or a special bowl, and yeah, I did some fun little things with that.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, great. May it provide you the warmth and comfort and wealth you need.
Thanks. And I had a big feast for Jupiter. That was super fun. I got dressed up and just had a feast at my altar. You know,
What did you dress up? What did you tell me about your
I think I
garb?
just put like a nice dress on that I wouldn't normally wear, you know, during the day or whatever. It was like a more of a go out dress or something, and jewelry, and curled my hair and just looked, pretended I was going out to like a nice party or something, and then just got the feast and all the food and presented it to Jupiter, and lit a candle, and just then I enjoyed it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, well, you can do that with every planet on every day of the week, right? Because there's a different planet for every day. There's Saturn day, right? Sunday, Moon day, Tuesday, which is Mars day, Wednesday's Mercury day, Thursday's Jupiter day, Friday, Venus day, right? Freya's day. So each day at sunrise, that is the hour, the planetary hour of that planetary day. And that's why it's such a delicious time to meditate or do yoga or get up or do your readings or have your tea and whatever. Um, so yeah, that's why sunrise has such a potent feeling to it because it's all kind of possible. And that helps to give form to a planetary relationship, right, with those energies and those spheres, so that when you're not just like Venus, can I have a diamond ring? It's just
Yeah.
like who the hell are you? Wait a
Yeah.
minute.
Right. It's about that communion with them. Exactly.
Yeah, give poor Venus some champagne on your altar, right? Like Jupiter, I would like wheat beer would be a great thing to just kind of put on the altar.
Okay.
Um, just a little something dark rum for Saturn. Kind
Mm.
of each day, just put a little, light a candle, put an offering, light some incense. You can say an Orphic hymn to each of the planets, which are very short and lovely, and they kind of rhyme. And that's a really great way to start a astrological magic practice.
Very cool. So do you teach this? Do you like offer programs in this?
I was doing a lot of workshops in the pandemic that I kind of got Zoom burnt out. So I would love to like do like what you're doing, right? Like these live workshops and fairs. I really just want to be in person. So yeah, if I can find like when I travel and stuff, places to do that at, I would love that.
Totally. It's really awesome. And I think you have so much knowledge. It'd be really cool.
It's
Um,
fun to talk about.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about the Nine of Swords, aren't we?
Yes, we're going to talk about a scary card. And I'll
It
just say
is
for anybody
scary.
who's listening to this, doesn't know the tarot that well, it's the one that has a person sitting up in bed. They look like they have anxiety or insomnia, and then there's a whole bunch of swords behind them. So, so yeah, what's your connection to this card? Why did you choose it?
Well, I think everybody has a connection with this card, right? Of just being that kind of middle of the night terror anxiety thing, which
Yes.
I think we all really got to slow down and experience in the pandemic, really up close and slowly. Uh, the thing about this card is I love lots of things. I just love the imagery of it. It's just very cinematic, and I love the blanket. Also, T. Susan Chang. Susan Chang makes a blanket like this on the Nine of Swords with all the astrological symbols and the flowers, like an actual blanket. I'm like plugging
That's
her.
amazing.
So you can get the nine of if you too want to be up in the middle of the night worrying about everything, get the Susan Chang Nine of Swords blanket. And so I picked the Nine of Swords because my son is in this decan of the middle decan of Gemini or Gemini 2. And that decan is ruled by Mars. So you'll often see in these, maybe I should pull out my Thoth deck because they include the decan ruler on here. So you'll see a little planetary symbol oh, like why is Mars on here? Because Mars is the ruler of that decan. The ruler of the first decan of Gemini is Jupiter, right? So that one, why couldn't I have been in that one? That one sounds more lucky. Like I wish I had that.
Yeah.
And that's the eight of swords, which you can kind of think of as there's more possibilities than this person can really perceive, right? Is kind of how you can see
Mm.
Jupiter being linked to that card.
I
And
like that.
Mars, hmm, and Mars in the middle decan here, being the ruler of the middle decan, is, and all the the myth about the Castor and Pollux Gemini twins, there's always this kind of severing, right, of that, like an act of multiplication. In order to multiply, you have to sever something, right? To kind of Gemini wants to multiply and cover all
Right.
the territory, read all the books, and know all the things, right? So there's this severing in order to this violence in order to kind of do that, right? And that's what this perhaps this very real moment of actual dissociation, the Nine of Swords, perhaps, is like, oh my God, how do I cope with this? How do I endure this moment in order to kind of get through it? I can't even remind myself these are stress hormones. I'm just like so in the images of this thing, and I'm just kind of in the weeds of it, right? And so that my son is in that decade. So the sun is how you see yourself, how you identify. And I'm like, yeah, I can definitely see, and this is all in the sixth house, right, which is about health a lot of times in astrology. And I definitely, because of certain health problems throughout my life, had really over identified with the kind of state of fear that being sick puts you in, because the more you're sick, the more you're sick.
Yeah.
And I could see how, not like in a conspiracy theory, like, oh, they're making me sick, but you can see how when you go to the doctor, they're like, oh boy, that could be the flu, or you could have colon cancer, right? Like you go
Right.
to that place in your head where you're
Yes.
like, oh my God, I have colon cancer. But, and that
And then you add
I
the internet
realized,
on top of that.
yeah, then they're like, you're looking shit up. Then they're yelling at you because you're looking stuff up on the internet, but then you're yelling at them because they're running down the hall every time you try to talk with the doctor, right? But so beginning to identify with kind of this state of being in this, I don't know, PTSD, right? This card is kind of this never-ending trauma almost. Like I love how the swords just don't have any ending. They just go on forever or something, right? It's this
Yeah.
idea that this never ends, which is something I love about astrology. It tells you, no, it actually does end, and here's when. Um, but yeah, it just feels like it, right? It's like, oh my God, my life is ruined, all this stuff, right? I'm gonna this and that. So and so says this and whatever, all that we are always up worrying about in the middle of the night. But this is largely an internal card, right? There's not a coherence with the outside world. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that to Sarah, but like Sarah's not thinking about that, right? This is a me thing, right? And us,
Internal.
me thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I have some like what I guess you would call PTSD, and so that just made sense. And I was like, oh my God, I have to snap out of identifying with kind of being a diagnosis. Not that having a diagnosis wasn't helpful, but like I need to like stop identifying with this stuff, right? I need to kind of stop being like like enjoying going to the hospital because I could like wear my comfy clothes and stuff like that. And I was like, whoa, I'm like 35, like knock it off, right? But that is the kind of why I chose this card.
I love it. I love what you said about severing. I had not thought about that before, and I immediately thought of that movie, Annihilation with Natalie Portman, when she becomes like her copy gets made. Have you seen that movie where she has like a copy of herself made at the end, and but she has to
No, but
kill?
it's also very Black Swan, where it's similar. She has a
Yes.
copy of herself, which is a
Oh
great
my
theme.
God. Yeah, and Natalie Portman is a Sun Gemini, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, is she? Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, but severing, I'm looking at how they're covering their face. Their hands are literally covering their eyes and their face. So it's like really is like they are severing themselves off from the outside world. And they are just, yeah, like you said, just internal. So tell us a story of your life that relates to this Nine of Swords?
Um, every night forever from the last several decades, pretty much. Yeah, I definitely have, I'm definitely haunted by nightmares of past traumas and such. But as I, get older and I heal and I figure out how to deal with stuff, that kind of stuff goes away. But one interesting story about that is I don't know where it's from, and I wish I did, but there's um, this Native American writer writing about different cultures of, spiritual beliefs of First Nations, fellow First Nations people. And there's this story about somebody or about a tribe who had a few people who were naturally kind of awake at like 3, 4 in the morning to
Oh,
be the watchers, right? Like the night shift, to be but there's this kind of group of people that seemingly naturally just have this ability to be awake at 3 to like 5 a.m. is my magical time.
mm.
And that would designate you as one of the watchers because you would just be up and be like, wait, I guess you can't you can't scroll on your phone in 1800. So you're just kind of up, right? So you're like, oh, you're the one who's up at this hour. You're going to be the watcher. And so I think about that card about being like, okay, you can sit and kind of just worry about this stuff, or you can kind of get up and fucking meditate. You can get up and um, which is what they did. They would just kind of sit at the edge of camp, kind of watching for whatever predators and meditating in the state where they were awake yet in deep rest. And
Mm.
so I think this moment is an opportunity for that kind of thing in that Gemini way to be able to hold both of those things at once. Hold
Mhm.
those two very, how do you stay totally alert but totally in deep rest, which is why in meditation you sit up. So you're not, if you lie down, you're going to go to sleep often. Not
Yeah.
always, but if you're sitting upright, that's just kind of this restful alertness. And so when this card comes up, it's when this card comes up in readings, I see it a lot as definitely a lot of kind of PTSD stuff.
Mm.
People, not like I'm going to be like, so tell me about your PTSD, but it's you
Right.
can kind of generally kind of tiptoe around it and poke around and find it. But yeah, this card, if this came up in a reading, it would just be like, yeah, stop kind of stop getting up, staying up all night and do something at that time. If you're going to sit there in bed and kind of lay at the ceiling, get up and do a mantra practice. That's kind of what I ended up doing. Um, which again, the mantra is like a recitation practice. So that's another sword kind of air thing, right? I'm not just meditating, I'm reciting mantras.
Mhm.
And so I would do like a good hour mantra practice from 3 to 4 in the morning. And then that would just kind of eventually lullaby me back to sleep. Um, so that's one story. Is like, oh, I'm the meditation watcher. I'm the one who's designated to speak with the kind of forces of the night, and I'm the one who's going to be at the edge of camp waiting for those forces, and I'm the one uniquely qualified to translate this to translate this negotiation.
Yeah, translate the data or the information that comes through at this hour. Um,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I've always seen this card as lucidity, like waking from the dream or waking in the dream. Very sober. It's very sobering, like you were saying. And I love how you take that sober, lucid thing where a lot of people do freak out on acid trips, or like they're like some kind of altered where they're everything becomes very lucid, and they will like really get scared, like very terrified, and they need to be talked down. Or but with you, you're just saying no, just transmute transmute it into meditation, which is so cool. Like that's amazing.
Meditation means lots of things, right? Like there's all kinds of ways of meditating. It isn't just a sitting practice, right? You can just walk in circles in your yard, whatever, right? But I think just the advice in that card is to sit up. If something happens with, I don't know, what juices are flowing in my body in the middle of the night that make me worry about shit that I would never worry about at 3 p.m., you know? And I feel like that act of sitting up just kind of stops whatever process that's happening in my body of juices and chemicals that are kind of making that happen. And I can kind of like snap out of that state. So I can kind of link with you on that lucidity part.
And that it comes at the strangest times. Like it's totally unpredictable when we have these moments in the middle of the night like that, like you're just saying. It I had a really strange one recently. Do you mind if I share this little personal bit?
Yes. It's your show.
It was I was watching The Cosby Show,
Oh God,
and I
wow.
hadn't seen it in so long, and it just like reactivated my inner child in this way to now where that's integrating with my adult self. And it's like bringing up some disturbing feelings. And it's not because of the Cosby Show. Like I love that show. It's hilarious, but there's just something about that vibe and that nostalgia that like, and I've noticed in the middle of the night, it's starting to like, whew, like hit me sometimes, like that integration. I feel it in the middle of the night, that alchemy, whatever that is. I don't know. It's strange. Like when we wake, we reactivate or awaken these ancient parts of us that like become awake. And yeah.
Yeah, that there's yeah, that can be quite initiatory, right? And that's the whole goal of what do you do with this card? Well, you kind of integrate, right? You integrate this stuff. Nothing you can't unsee or unexperience things. And
Yeah.
that is initiation. It's like, well, initiation is being able to integrate things. Trauma is when you're not,
Mm, mm,
right? And so there's initiations we don't ask for,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And that's our job to kind of find initiation in that in some way. That is the corrective measure, remediative measure, I feel.
I want to ask you, what if this card was a person, what advice do you think it would give?
Hurry to what would they this card were a person, what advice would they give?
Have
Think
to
about
make
that a little. Think about that a little. Go back to your room and think about that a little harder. That's Go back to your room and think about that some more. That's not a sufficient, right? Like when you're bad kid and you try
Hmm.
to come up with what you think the adults want to hear, and then you try it
Mm,
out. They're like, nope. Go back and try to figure it out what we want to hear differently. And then you go back and then you try to figure it out. And then finally, when you figure out whatever version of apology they want, that's who that card is.
hmm. Also, what you said earlier, like get up and meditate. Don't sit there and ruminate.
Oh,
Like,
the watcher, yeah.
yeah. You know, another thing I think they would say is like quit daydreaming, like quit fucking around and like wake up to reality. You got to face reality. Because
Well,
it's
it's that moment of overwhelm when you realize what you've done. Like you look back and you're like, oh shit, right? So yeah, it is that very much.
sometimes reality doesn't feel good when we wake up to it. It hurts. It's like agonizing sometimes.
I mean, that is a that is life right there, that that is this card is the Lord of cruelty, right? That we can expect that
Mm.
there will be cruelty. It's a dimension of humanity, right? Is to experience cruelty.
Mm.
Nobody does not experience cruelty. What we can do is to eliminate cruel people from our lives. That's another thing I see when this card comes up is like, okay, who's the person they're worrying about, right? Like
Mhm.
as adults, we're like, okay, I'm still figuring out how to like word things to like so people accept what I have to say, but I'm not necessarily like really sorry or really whatever, right? But we still twist
Yeah.
our words into a way that can conform. Um, yeah, this I don't know where I was going with that.
I got somewhere to go if you want, but I can
Where?
also,
What's that? Tell me.
well, I would love to go into how this card connects to the hermit. I mean, that's just an incredible connection for me. Like to think about it's like the sobriety, and then he's got the light of truth.
Yeah, that's the getting up, doing the watcher, being like, oh shit, this is the overwhelm of realizing I'm the watcher, and all of that information, that spiritual transformation is this overwhelm. It never ends. And then once you just kind of get a handle on it, then you become the hermit, right? Then you're like, okay, I've taken those swords and I've melted them down and I've made them into a lantern and I'm somehow found a way to like burn the leather as the fuel of the candle or something, right?
Wow.
Or I'm gonna make this blanket into my like shawl, and I'm gonna go into the woods.
Wow.
But they're turning if but yeah, that is a really it's one way to kind of think about it.
That's amazing. Hmm. When you said the hermit gets a handle on it, on all the spiritual awakening and spiritual transformations that can be so intense, like to be that person that has a handle on that, like, whoo, like what is that like?
That's what integration is. Once you've had the overwhelm and you've seen what all the pieces are and you've taken them apart and then you put them back together, and it's like, okay, well, it's just 5 miles at a time then, or whatever the thing is. You piece it out, but there's this overwhelm of like, I have to walk all the way to wherever, to
Yeah.
Detroit. But then it's like, okay, well then that's if I do it like 10 miles a day, I can do this and that. But the overwhelm of that feeling and then that integration of the information leads to an understanding.
And I like how you said just a little increments, because that's what the hermit does. He moves really slowly. He's taking little
Yeah.
steps. He's old.
And to read the same page and the same passage over and over again. This is someone who's toiling away at like understanding something, understanding the nature behind something, understanding the deep contemplation of the written word or the experience of consciousness or the details in a mandala.
Mhm. And so the ones who have integrated in themselves are here as way showers, helping other people find peace.
Yeah, or not, or just peace for yourself, right? There isn't a duty to like it's a yin kind of a card. There's no duty to kind of do much with that information other than to kind of absorb it, right? And the decadence of that, luxury of that. It's like not cramming for the tarot workshop and then doing it. It's just kind of like doing a tarot workshop because you know it,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
But I'll always cram for a workshop because
Me too. Yeah, this is like totally has that vibe of the cram, like staying up all night cramming for a test.
or that's like yeah, yeah, or oh my God, I just realized the test today. I got that one answer wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, I got that one wrong.
Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support and explore my work further, you can subscribe to patreon.com/readings and rituals.